Welcome to the Chef's Kitchen. I'm your host, Nicole Gaffney, and we're here today with Chef Jack McDavid of Jack's Firehouse and Taste of the NFL. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's great to see you, young lady.
Likewise. Well, what are we making today?
We're going to do a little bit twist on an old-fashioned pot roast. Instead of using the shoulder that most people use, we're going to use a brisket. I think it has better flavor. It's just a wonderful piece of meat, so that's what we're going to try to use on that. And instead of doing the normal vegetables the way we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to use some shiitake mushrooms. So it's going to be a flat iron brisket with some shiitake mushrooms. And all the vegetables we're going to put in it, we're going to use to make the sauce to go over, because we're going to make some mashed potatoes and some biscuits, so you need some gravy. Okay?
Absolutely.
And we're not going to use any starch in any of it by using potatoes, and we're going to change it up just a little bit, okay?
Sounds great. Let's get started.
Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to sear this piece of meat. Before I put the oil in, I'm going to season it.
I like that you're using brisket. Being a barbecue guy, brisket's a pretty common cut of meat for you, I'm sure.
Not only is it a common piece of meat, but it has a lot more flavor, I think, than the shoulder cuts. A lot of people use the shoulder because that's the muscle that's used the most, and any muscle that's used the most, it has more flavor. It's also tougher. That's why you have to cook it longer, okay? So we season the sides on this. We're going to add a touch of oil. And now this pan will be hot.
Now, I like that you're using cast iron, and I want to talk about this pan for a minute because it looks like it has been through a lot.
It's cooked a lot of food.
Yeah.
You know, cast iron is kind of special. You're never supposed to wash it. Once you get it seasoned, you're never supposed to wash it. So this cast iron is a little bit older than you, I'm sorry to tell you, okay? And it came from the hills of Virginia, where I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the cast iron because this pan weighs about 8 pounds.
Wow.
And by weighing 8 pounds, it weighs more than a meat. And the reason that's important to me is I want a good, deep sear on a piece of meat. And if it's not a heavy piece of pan underneath it, the meat will suck up all the heat. So now this is still hot even after we put the meat in and it's starting to sear, okay?
So make sure you get that nice crust on the bottom.
I want a crust.
Very important.
Okay, as that's starting to sear, we're going to play with some vegetables. In a restaurant, we do things differently than at home, or a lot of people do. What we do is we don't dice. You see people going bum, 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 bum. In restaurants, we slice. We'll take a piece of celery like this. And now, these vegetables I'm putting in, all we're going to use it for, actually, is for flavor to the meat. And then also, we're going to use it to make the sauce. Instead of making a stock and putting a stock on it, I'll use the celery that I cut now.
So you have all the flavor that you need just from this.
I'm building flavor every step of the way.
So you go nice long slices first.
Yes, and then you go right across. And if you see the way I'm using my fingers, I've got my thumb in the back and I'm using it to slide my fingers across, and I'm letting the knife go up and down my knuckles. By doing that, I don't cut myself, and I can make a consistent cut.
Keep those fingertips out of there.
Yes, I really would rather keep my own fingertips. Okay?
I would like you to too.
Thank you. So we did celery, pretty easy, and if you see, we've got a consistent cut on this.
Now that's very important, having a consistent size piece.
The reason it's so important is if it's one piece is bigger than the other, if I cook this piece and this piece won't cook at the same time. You're going to lose the flavor. You're going to lose a lot about it.
Okay.
So what we do is we try to make it consistent. At home, I see people say, how do you cut onions? It's easy. We slice. We don't dice. We slice. And then we get a dice out of it. A good friend of mine, Bobby Flay, he does a great job on slicing. He even had commercials doing onions on TV because he was so good at doing slicing. Yes, he sliced one way, then he slices another.
And now that's how a lot of people know you. You hosted a show called Grillin' and Chillin' with Bobby Flay on the Food Network back in the 90s and the 2000s.
Shh, don't say how far back, okay? But yes,
it was like yesterday.
Yes, Bobby and I did a show together, and we did a couple series, and they ran for quite a bit on Food Network, which was a great thing.
Yeah.
I made a great friend with Bobby.
Nice.
You know, that all started at Taste of the NFL, which was the first one was 27 years ago. I met Bobby Flay in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I met a lot of great chefs, Kevin Rathman from Atlanta, the best chefs in the country. I met cooking at Taste of the NFL. And you know, Taste of the NFL is a wonderful organization. Now, I didn't get as much sear on that as I want, so I will go back over in a couple minutes. But what I did ahead of time, knowing that we're on TV, is I cheated a little bit. I seared
that's a sear.
I seared it. And now you see it's dark and you say, won't that taste? No, when you cook it all the way through with the juices that we're going to put in it, it will come out wonderfully flavored.
Stay tuned for more of the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
My vegetables here, they're going to also, as soon as they put it in, they start cooking because I didn't lose the heat by using such a large, heavy pan.
Right.
Okay.
And just carrot, celery, and onion, a little mirepoix.
A little
Basics.
mirepoix to make it basic. And
Keep it simple. I like that.
We're going to start adding some herbs and building some flavor through it as we go. And since shiitake mushrooms are part of the dish,
These are beautiful, by the way.
yes,
They're nice.
Pennsylvania has the best mushrooms in the world. Always
Sure.
has. And when I first brought them out in Minnesota 27 years ago, everybody wanted to know, where'd you get the mushrooms?
Yeah.
I'm back in Philadelphia.
Well, let's get back to that. So tell me more about the taste of the NFL. We were talking about that before.
27 years ago, Wayne Kostrowski was a restaurateur, a very nice man that would like to do charity work. And he was part of the host restaurant committee for the NFL Super Bowl for the first time they ever had it in Minnesota. So Wayne came up with the idea that he would do a dinner entertaining 32 chefs, one of the top chefs from each of the cities, and by doing so, he would raise money and donate it to hunger. We've raised about a little over $25 million since it started.
Not too shabby. That's a pretty good number.
And Philadelphia portion goes to a place called Phil Abundance, which is a wonderful organization that we've worked with for many years. They do a wonderful job. And in the meantime, he brings in all these chefs from all over the place. We get to meet each other. We kind of compete just a little. Don't tell people, but we kind of
chefs
compete.
Competing?
We, we compete a little bit to see who has the best food. Of course, mine's best every year. I know that.
Obviously.
Everybody doesn't agree, but I know it. So we all compete at the thing, preparing fabulous food. And then you get to listen to a wonderful band. Every year they bring in a different band.
Nice. Who's playing this year?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I cook.
We'll stay tuned. Yeah.
I'll have to stay tuned. But they have a website, tastinfl.com, and you can find out where the website that it's on.
Fantastic. And who do we have hosting it this year?
The host is one of the linebackers, an old linebacker from
the
Minnesota.
Vikings?
Vikings.
Okay.
So
Great.
every year they bring together the chefs. They bring together a lot of the older and famous football players to come and host and talk and entertain the people.
That's so much fun.
They bring in a pan. Miss America comes every year.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we will be doing it in Minnesota this year. Unfortunately, Minnesota won't be going to the Super Bowl this year.
Well, let's talk about that. So it's a little bit early now. We still don't know who's going to the Super Bowl, and by the time this airs, we probably will. But our Eagles, they've got a chance.
They've got a little bit better of a
They've got a chance.
And what's one of the best things is we have a very smart coach.
Yeah,
And
the smartest, I'd say.
I think so. And they work together as a team,
Yeah.
kind of like all the chefs working together at Taste NFL.
Right.
As a team, raising money for hunger.
Well, let's make the prediction now.
The
Eagles in the Super Bowl?
Of course, the Eagles in the
Eagles
Super
gonna
Bowl.
be in the Super Bowl.
I say this every year, though, ma'am. I just hate to tell you that, okay? And sometimes I have missed it, okay?
Well, this year I think we're going to be
This year
spot
we have
on.
Yes, ma'am. So I have the vegetables sweated. They've given up their juices, given up the color, and enhanced the flavor. So I'm going to put my brisket on that
right.
we've already started. Okay.
Right in the center there.
In the center.
So you want that to make contact with the bottom of the pan?
I want that. It doesn't have to because we're
Okay.
going to cover it with a top lid, and that will help steam it and also bake it. And I want some vegetables on top, okay? But
All
getting
right.
my vegetables on top, I'm getting some of that flavor from bottom up, top down, side up. So we're going to do all this.
All right.
And you know, the shiitakes have a wonderful, wonderful, deep flavor.
They do.
They really do.
They
They go great with meats. I don't think they're as good with fish, but I think they do a great job with red meats and chickens, okay? So we have the brisket started. We're going to put this in the oven, and we're going to put it in for about an hour and a half at 275
So
degrees.
nice low oven.
Low and slow with brisket.
Okay, and
Never-
only an hour and a half?
Well, that's where we're going to start.
Okay.
And then after we put it in the oven for about an hour and a half,
Just dry like this.
well, we're going to add some wine now.
Wine first, all right.
Okay. We're going to leave it in the oven for about an hour and a half.
So just a little bit of wine. Just a touch?
Just a little bit of wine.
Okay.
And after we put the wine in, we're going to add some rosemary.
This is dried rosemary?
This is dry.
Okay.
Now this is fresh thyme that we're going to add to it. These are bay leaves.
I love bay leaves.
You know, if you go back to the old classical cooking, they always use bay leaves.
Yeah.
In their stock, they always use thyme. Now my recipe calls for fresh, for dried thyme, but I've got fresh. I mean, there's no choice of which one I'd rather use.
You know,
sometimes it's not available.
A lot of people think bay leaves don't taste like anything, but I couldn't disagree more. I think it's an awesome flavor.
Well, you really don't want to taste the bay leaf. You
Sure.
just want to taste the base. Anytime you're cooking, you want to portray whatever you're cooking, like the brisket and the shiitake mushroom. That's the start of the show. But everything else helps build the flavor, one layer at a time.
Stay tuned for more of the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
And then after it's been in the oven for an hour and a half, we're going to add tomatoes.
All right.
I like tomatoes. That's more.
Just canned tomatoes, whole tomatoes?
I use canned tomatoes. I like to use the plum tomatoes on it instead of just the diced tomatoes.
Okay.
The plum tomatoes, I think, have a better flavor.
Less processed.
Less processed. And then after we do this, we're going to add orange zest.
Oh, orange zest. Now that's unique.
We're going to add some flavor to it.
Yeah.
We're going to build flavor all the
I
way
like
through
that.
it, okay?
Switching things up a bit.
And then we're going to add some lemon zest also. Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome. That's quite a bit too.
Well, we won't use all, but we're going to use this to make the sauce.
That's
and
nice.
The brisket has a little bit more fat than the shoulder, so we're going to use the citrus to kind of cut.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a duck, a little orange, it was so popular
There
years
you go.
ago, you had to have something to cut the fat from the duck.
It's all about balance.
Everything has to be balanced. Okay, this will go in the oven.
That's beautiful.
Okay. And as that continues to cook, I'm gonna make some biscuits. It's really hard to make.
Did you know how much I love biscuits when you decided to make these for the show today? Because
if I could only read your mind, I'd have been in
you
trouble,
did.
ma'am. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And biscuits, we're making what they call back where I grew up in Hills of Virginia, a drop biscuit, a buttermilk drop biscuit. I'm gonna come right over here over the stove, okay? And here we have some winter wheat flour. The reason I'm using winter wheat flour, it's a softer flour.
all right.
It's closer to a pastry flour for the French. It's a softer flour. It's not as high gluten, and it makes a lighter biscuit. Okay, so I dump my flour in.
That's a good tip because it's very, very difficult to achieve that perfect biscuit texture.
It has to be just right.
Yeah, it has to be just right, exactly. But I think a Southern boy like yourself knows what he's doing.
I'm trying, ma'am. I'm trying to learn. And that is some baking powder.
All right. Got to have that leavener in there.
A little bit, and also some baking soda.
Now, why baking soda and baking powder? Is there a reason?
Do you know what baking powder is?
I do.
Okay, it's baking soda.
With a little bit of acid added to it, cream of tartar.
And a little bit of salt. And I'm going to use both.
Okay.
And why I do it this way is my mama taught me to do it that way.
Well, that's all the reason you need.
And the flour that I use in my restaurant, we still bring it up from down in the mountains of Virginia,
Do you
around
really?
Tennessee. Yes, ma'am.
No.
Because you can't buy good winter wheat flour
Wow.
up north.
Who knew? Yeah.
This is a lard that I
Nice.
put in it. Okay. And you need lard in it to make it creamy after you mix it together.
Lard gets a bad reputation, but boy, does it taste good in a biscuit.
There's a lot of things that we're not supposed to do. That's a lot better if we do them. Okay? And cooking,
I'm with you.
also.
I'm with you.
Okay, you're asking me about the down-home diner.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a classically French trained chef. Okay, I worked for the first 15 years of my culinary career working in fancy French restaurants. And when I decided I wanted to open my own restaurant, I said, you know, I really don't want to do that. I want to do something from back home. So there's a little farmer's market. It's called a Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia. It's a great farmer's market.
Love it there.
And when I worked at this fancy French restaurant called Le Bec Fin, which was the top French restaurant in the country maybe at the time,
Yeah.
when I was a chef de partie, okay? Big title.
Sounds fancy.
So when you had a special party, what I'd have to do is I'd have to help figure out the menu, figure out where to get the products. And I always leaned on the Reading Terminal Market to find special products.
Right.
So when it came time to open my restaurant, I decided that I would open in the Reading Terminal Market. And I opened almost a restaurant with a little bit of Southern twang to it. And it was called a down-home diner.
And this came before Jack's Firehouse?
This was before Jack's Firehouse. And I was very lucky. And after the first month, you couldn't get in it for 3 years.
Really? How about that?
They would line up before I opened, and they would line up until I closed for 3 years.
And what's your specialty there?
Good food.
Good answer.
We don't have freezers. We
Really?
made everything from scratch.
Fantastic.
Okay. We make our own buttermilk. Okay. Which you make whipped cream. Under the leftovers, you let it sour, and it's called buttermilk.
Wow.
We made our own preserves, and we canned the preserves. So we made everything from scratch. We made our own hams. We made our own bacon.
Wow.
So it was a little bit before its time, and we bought all of our
say.
products from the farmers.
Right there in the
And the
market.
Radiant Terminal Market. And we also made a lot of inland roads for the Amish and the Mennonite because we're in the Radiant Terminal Market.
Sure.
So we were fortunate enough to make a lot of friends, and we got lucky, and people came out to eat it. And you know what? They're still doing it. And it's only 30 years later, we're still doing it. And
30 years is a long time to have a restaurant.
I know, ma'am.
It really
I was a young kid when I started. I swear I was. Okay.
You're still a young kid.
I don't know about that.
At heart.
But okay, thank you. But after we got the diner going, it was open 3 years, and we decided to open a restaurant, upscale American restaurant. It was called Jack's Firehouse.
Stay tuned for more of the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
So what I've been doing is I've been working the lard into the flour. And when you do that, when you bake it, the lard melts, goes into the flour, and it also makes it rise a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's got a little moisture in it, and as the moisture steams, it brings the biscuit up.
So you get those kind of tender
And
flakes.
you get a little flaky, okay?
I like it.
And in this, we use a buttermilk.
Okay, so how do you know how much buttermilk to put in?
Until it kind of clumps together and holds together.
All right,
It's
so you
not
just
too
do it by
dry.
feel.
And the secret to using a buttermilk on a baking powder and baking soda is as soon as you put the buttermilk in, it's starting a chemical reaction.
So we need to work with it pretty quickly once
Pretty
you start
quick.
adding the buttermilk?
And you don't want to over mix it. Even if you have a couple little lumps, they'll thaw out. We're gonna make little biscuits.
All right, so little baby biscuits.
Little baby biscuits. So now we're gonna put this in a hot oven,
And what kind of temperature?
about 400 degrees.
All right.
Okay.
And about how long do they take?
This is going to take about 12 minutes.
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
really
drain
quick.
these.
Okay, so the
Okay.
potatoes are done.
The potatoes are done,
Got to drain off the water.
and I drain them real well. Okay. To start with the mashed potatoes, the only thing I put in it, you want to whip the potatoes before you put your milk in it.
Why is that?
I want fluffy, light potatoes. See how this almost just broke apart?
Yeah,
But it's still
definitely.
got little lumps in it. So I've got to beat it.
So you want to get rid of all those lumps? You want nice
Yes,
smooth
ma'am,
potatoes?
I want smooth.
All right. All
Can
right.
you add a little milk at a
Sure.
time? And one thing on making mashed potatoes, you have to remember, as it sits, it's the starch. It's going to take more even after you finish making it, okay?
All right.
So we're going to leave the potatoes here.
All right.
Now,
Nice pepper in there too. Nice and
we're
spicy.
going to change it over to pan, and we finish the pot roast up in a closed container.
All right. It's like a nice old-fashioned Dutch oven you got here. Is this also
Yeah,
the
it's
same
old.
age as that cast iron skillet?
Not quite, but
All right.
it's not a newbie. I'll
It's
tell
got
you
some
that.
years on it.
Well, me too, ma'am. Okay.
Look at that.
Okay.
And that's been in there for about how long?
A total of about 3 hours.
Really?
It's got a
And you
little
didn't
flavor.
smoke that at all?
No, ma'am.
It even smells a little smoky. It smells
But
delicious.
if you remember, I seared it deep. Okay, a little
Yeah.
flavor.
Wow.
Everything I'm doing, I'm adding flavor to it.
Now, do you have to let this rest at all?
I'm gonna let it rest a little bit while I make the sauce.
Okay, great. You got it?
Yeah, I got it. One thing great about being a cook in a restaurant,
You have no feeling left in your fingertips.
well, not only that,
probably.
but we don't have to clean up. May I have a spoon again?
Sure.
Okay, in here
This smells incredible.
we have the herbs.
Wow.
We have the mushrooms.
And
we
those
have the
mushrooms,
vegetables.
they didn't really shrink up too much either. I thought they would.
Ma'am, that's why I sauteed them to start with. If you didn't saute them to start with, they shrink up a lot more and they
Oh,
get chewy.
okay.
There's a lot of ways you can make sauces. I just take this and I'm going to put it in your blender.
Oh, so you puree all of this
And I'm going
together.
to puree it and I'm going to call that a gravy. One thing I didn't show I put in was potatoes. The potatoes,
Oh, right.
the potatoes will make it thicken up. Okay, we're gonna let this sit for a couple seconds. Okay, we have the mashed potatoes. And you notice on the brisket, one thing I didn't mention is I left a decal on. Do you know what a decal is? That's
Explain
that
that.
fat cap that's on top of it. Some people take it off. I think it's the most flavorful part of a brisket. Okay, brisket, you always have to cut it against the grain. There's fibers here,
Yeah.
okay? And those fibers, you have to cut it against it. And we're gonna lay it out right across the potatoes. And now we're gonna add a little sauce. Okay, and we're gonna put the sauce
Nice.
right over the top.
Look at that. That looks so rich.
And now we're gonna bring out the biscuits. Hopefully the biscuits look okay.
Oh, they look great.
And remember, I heated the pan so we got brown on the bottom.
They look perfect. This looks fabulous.
Thank you, ma'am. You're
Cheers.
very kind.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Do we need a knife?
I think you'll need a little bit of knife.
All right.
I tried to.
Get right on in there.
And you know what's interesting? You'll find the mushrooms have almost the same type of flavor. It picked up some flavor
Really?
and added some flavor. So mushrooms are a wonderful crewman.
All right, now
So
for
if
the
we're lucky.
biscuit.
Doing okay?
I've told you I love a good biscuit, and this one's the truth.
I've always wanted. Can you win a woman's heart for your cooking?
You can get me with a biscuit anytime.
Okay, ma'am.
Taste of the NFL, it's going to be an awesome event. They're
It will
lucky
be.
to have you there,
Thank you.
and our Eagles are going to be there too.
Well, maybe you'll even be able to show up.
Maybe
Come
I
on.
will.
Thank you
Thanks
for having
the
me.
invitation, of
Thank
course.
you.
We'll have you back here anytime you want to come and see us on the Chef's
You're
Kitchen.
so sweet. Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks.
You know, it was great being on Chef's Kitchen again. It's been a long time since I've been on, 10, 15 years almost. New place to shoot, new people to work with. I think you've upped your game quite a bit, sir. You're doing a great job. Keep going.